The idea that Britain is not a nation is a foundational myth of Scottish nationalism, and it's been around since Scottish nationalism came together. They think in their heads that there's only like separate countries, and when they joined together they didn't form anything greater than that. Okay? And you hear some unionists think that as well, because you hear them talk about how Britain is a union of nations. And of course, to an extent, you can consider that it is. But we as unionists like to think of Britain primarily as a nation of unions. And this was summed up extremely well in a letter which appeared in The Scotsman this week. It appeared in The Scotsman on the 6th of January 2022, and it begins, "In his New Year's speech, Sir Keir Starmer described the United Kingdom twice as a union of nations. As a lawyer, he will know that that's not strictly correct, and that we are actually a nation of unions. Wales formed a union with England in 1536, Scotland and England formed their union in 1707 to form Great Britain, and Ireland formed a union with Britain in 1801 to form the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, now Great Britain and Northern Ireland. On top of this, we had the Union of Crowns in 1603. That's when, as you will recall, the Scots King James VI became James VI of the realm of Great Britain. Now, these unions, as the letter writer says here, caused all sides to give up some power and influence for the greater good. And by and large, they have all survived the passage of time. There is, of course, a lot of ambiguity about these things, with country and nation being applied to the whole or the constituent parts, and nobody complains about this as they help us to rub along together. But it would be good to see politicians with some real sense about how our current arrangements actually came about. The Labour Party in particular should understand the value and obligations of being in a union and what that means." So that's how we conceive it. Britain is a nation. It is a nation of unions built up over time, and we do not want to see that nation destroyed. And we wrote about that in our magazine here, Do More Together. One of the very first articles that we wrote was why Britain is a unitary state and a nation, and it's all explained there. And if you want to buy this magazine, it's a £5, and we'll put the link up there on our Facebook and Twitter pages. But as we say, Britain has all the evidence of nationhood. We have a common head of state, common parliament, common political system of representative parliamentary democracy, an international boundary, a national citizenship, language, national currency, national passport, national anthem, national flag, national armed forces, a seat on international bodies and worldwide British embassies, and even civil law is integrated, with the Supreme Court in London being the highest court for all UK civil cases. And so Britain is definitely a nation, and we proceed on that basis. And it doesn't matter how many times Scottish nationalists will say Britain's not a nation or the United Kingdom is not a nation. We believe it is a nation. It has all the evidence of being a nation, and it is a nation. It is a nation. Now, Scottish nationalists don't want to think about that, because that makes their job a lot harder, because it becomes not just independence for Scotland, it actually becomes a matter of destroying a nation, the nation of Britain. So they don't want to think about it that way. But when we think about it that way, then we realise the value of maintaining it as a nation. And that's a very powerful point